these distinguished members, officers of various local labor unions that you will hear from in a minute. Welcome and thank you around the country. We want to say thank you for coming and being a part of this on the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, and that the emphasis on labor and what labor has done. You know, we've come together today because there is a relationship between the civil rights movement and community and labor. Let me make it more sacred than that. There is a personal relationship between the LA County Federation of Labor and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference of Southern California. We've worked together, we've struggled together with all of its affiliates. Sclc has been there and continues and will always be of Sclc and labor. You know, in 1968, a friend of ours, of many of us here, he coined the term, am I a person? And yes, am I a person? We need to let businesses in Los Angeles know that we are a person. We cannot be replaced by artificial intelligence. We cannot be changed from being a human to a computer. We are a person. We cannot be manipulated for temporary workers. We are a person. We will not let you abolish benefits and seniority. We are a person. We will not allow you to supplant our wages. We are a person. We will not allow you to reduce our salaries to make us do anything that is detrimental to our health, welfare, and to our children. We are a person. Thank you.
Good evening, sisters, brothers, and siblings. I would like to first thank Pastor William Smart for convening this gathering, and thank him and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference for always pushing the labor movement to follow in the tradition that Dr. King set for us. It's been 60 years since Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. told the world about his dream during the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Dr. King prophetically proclaimed, what good is it having the right to sit at a lunch counter if you can't afford to buy a hamburger? He made it abundantly clear you cannot have racial justice if you don't address the issues of economic justice at the same time. His legacy is timeless because he finally woke up the consciousness of the nation to acknowledge the sins of racism and how systemic racism prevents us all of fulfilling our destiny as a nation of liberty and justice for all. And the lesson seems timeless given what was taking place in Los Angeles, as we are in the midst of a homeless pandemic, where 70% are unhoused, are immigrants, black or brown. 40% of the unhoused are black, yet the black population in Los Angeles County only accounts for 8% of the county overall population. And 1.4 million of our neighbors are living in poverty. That's unacceptable, and that's where the labor movement must lead. The labor movement, through the power of collective bargaining, has done more to close the racial and gender pay gap than any other policy hoped to achieve. The power of the collective bargaining and union contract is a tool which women, black, brown, and working families of color moved into the middle class. That's what real worker empowerment looks like, and that's what real democracy looks like. But we still have a long way to go. Right now, we have working people living in their cars, or worse yet, living on the street. We have striking hospitality workers fighting for dignified wages and benefits so they could afford to live where they work. And the majority of these workers are women and workers of color who live in our community. Hollywood workers are fighting for the future of their work as powerful studios are trying to replace the dignity of their work with artificial intelligence. Kaiser Hospital workers, the workers who keep us safe and healthy, are fighting to ensure that they too can have good benefits. But again, when I see the spirit and the tenacity of our affiliates and our brave community members here, like the ones beside me tonight, I cannot help but feel hopeful. The legacy that Dr. King paved 60 years ago lives on today in Los Angeles as we are at the forefront of a hot labor summer. The workers of Los Angeles have tapped into the same spirit that pushed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to awaken the soul of the nation and challenge injustice with righteous dignity. Workers are standing up for racial justice. Workers are standing up for housing, and workers are standing up against the unfettered corporate greed, and the entire nation has taken notice. I can go on, but you'll hear more about that from our panelists as this night proceeds. To close, I'd like to leave you with this. If history has taught us anything, it's that the spirit from the March on Washington will never be denied. It may be pushed around, it may get delayed, but in the end, it's always going to shine through. As a proud president of the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor, I pledge to continue Dr. King's dream, and I'm so proud of all of our brave affiliates who have taken on the good fight and who are implementing the dream every day. Because when we walk in the pathway that Dr. King set for us and march.
All right. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Labor Roundtable brought to you by the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and the Los Angeles Federation of Labor. I'm going to be your moderator tonight. My name is Anton Farby. I am the board chair. I'm the chairman of the board for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference of Southern California. And I just want to take this opportunity to not only welcome you all who are tuning in tonight, but I also want to welcome this distinguished panel. This panel consists of labor leaders who have either engaged in historic fights, who are currently organizing fights, but also here to talk about how the work that they have been doing with their members is connected to the work from 60 years ago as we honor and celebrate the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs, that speaks to the work of now, that speaks to the work of yesterday, to speaks of the future of work here in Los Angeles. And we know what happens here in Los Angeles impacts the rest of the country. So I just want to take a point of personal privilege just to say that I'm very honored to be amongst friends and brothers and sisters tonight. And I feel very, very grateful for this opportunity. Over the past week, I've had a pretty tough week personally with family issues, and folks here who I know have been there every step of the way. It's always important to know when you have tough times that you got family, but also will be in the field fighting with me. So I want to thank every one of them, and let's give them a round of applause. Pastor Smart, the president and CEO of the Sclc of the Southern Christian Leadership of Southern California, as well as President Yvonne Willer for the Los Angeles Federation of Labor, for working together to bring this in play tonight. 60 years ago, right, there was a vision of civil rights labor leaders that wanted to talk about what was happening in our country, right? We saw labor unrest taking place. We saw civil liberties not really being honored. We saw racial tension at an all-time high in our country. 60 years ago, these leaders met in Washington in a march, state of labor in Los Angeles. So what I would like to do is, starting at my left, I want folks to kind of bring their voices in the room so that you'll know who is on this panel, and then we will begin by jumping into the conversation. So can we start with you, Kurt?
Sure. Do you want me to jump in or just?
Your name and your title and your local.
I can do that. I'm Kurt Peterson. I'm a co-president of Unite Here Local 11. We represent 30,000 hotel and food service workers in Southern California and Arizona.
Thank you. Victor?
Victor Mineros. I'm with Teamsters Local 396. We represent about 13,000 UPSers and sanitation workers and newly organized Amazon workers where Amazon has fired them.
My name is Max Arias, elected Executive Director, SCIU Local 99. We represent 50,000 education workers in Southern California, from family child care providers to classified workers in LAUSD. That's who we are. Cool.
Good morning, good evening, and hello. I'm Samuel Wright. I'm the Vice President of Service Employees International Union Local 721. We represent 98,000 public sector workers in Southern California, along with some private sector.
Good evening, I'm Lori Candinas, business representative from AFSCME District Council 36. We represent about 60,000 throughout our locals, about 10,000 within the city of Los Angeles.
Good evening, my name is Natasha Williams. I am a very proud member of SEIU UHW, United Healthcare Workers West. We represent over 100,000 members, and all the way from our maintenance, food workers, service workers, to our nursing staff, the medical assistants, the LVNs, respiratory therapy, radiology, you name it in the service work for healthcare workers, we represent them.
Good evening, my name is Eric Haywood. I am here representing the Writers Guild of America West. We are a union of screenwriters. And between the Writers Guild of America West and East, we represent a total of roughly 11,500 writers. I am currently a member of the Writers Guild of America West Board of Directors, and also this year.
That there is, and we rely on all of you to stand in solidarity with us, and we thank you for that. I'm just blown away by the marking of 60 years. I wasn't here then. I think that I've seen in the time that I've been alive progress, and then I look at the news of the day and I realize that we haven't gotten very far at all. On a personal note, to raise her up and elevate her and show her her value, even in the house in a white family, that we are going forward in life and trying to guide her to the best possible outcome in her life.
Movement and how it has partnered with labor over the past couple of decades. So my first question for the panel is, how does your current work advance the legacy of Martin Luther King's dream and the March on Washington from 60 years ago? And just for those of you who are tuning in and for the panel, this is going to be an open dialogue, open for any of our panels to be able to jump in. Some panelists may answer all questions, maybe none, but I am engaging them on this first question because I think it's pertinent to the topic of conversation as we kick things off here. So once again, the question is, how does your work, your current work, advance the legacy of the dream of Martin Luther King and the March on Washington from 60 years ago? Who would like to kick us off? Simboa.
Okay, so I look at our union as a social and economic justice union. Okay. Right now, we are actually in negotiations, and I'm sure folks saw the city of Los Angeles about 3 weeks ago. We had over 11,000 members from the city of Los Angeles on strike, a one-day strike. That wasn't only for us as union members, that was for the communities that we serve. So a lot of the things we're doing, is one of the things I can say, we have something called a target local hire program. We want to hire people within the city of Los Angeles that we serve. The same people that live in the community are serving the community. So we set up a program, we have a letter of agreement along with a few unions, SEIU, AFSCME, and you come in, you do not have to take this civil service exam. A lot of people can't take an exam, right? You come in, you have 6 months of vocational training and 6 months of civil service probation, and you are hired on to the city of Los Angeles. That's one program. We have another program, the HBCU recruitment for engineers. We've worked with the city of Los Angeles and and Board of Public Works and Personnel. And we have where these folks are engineers, and we are recruiting them into the city of Los Angeles. Both of these programs, these are just two of them. Both of these programs, they get a union, they get full benefits right away, and they have a career path. There's another one we're working on with the Los Angeles Black Workers Center, where it's a similar program with training entry-level positions, and they go through a boot camp. LA County Federation of Labor was involved in this also, and this boot camp, these are everyday folks that live in the city of Los Angeles, in South Los Angeles. These folks do the same program, 6 months of vocational training, 6 months of civil service, and they are full-time City of Los Angeles employees, and they have an opportunity to promote into a higher position if they desire. That's just a little icing on the cake. I don't want to take up all the time, but we want to continue the legacy of Dr. King. We want to continue fighting for civil rights. It doesn't stop. We have to continue it.
Thanks, Abu. I appreciate that. Thanks, brother. So let me ask the question again for the rest of our panelists and for those who are tuning in to the Los Angeles Labor Roundtable, brought to you by the Los Angeles Federation of Labor and the Sclc of Southern California. How does your current work advance the dream of Martin Luther King and the legacy of the March on Washington from 60 years ago? Laura?
I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge AFSCME's history with Dr. King.
Absolutely.
Dr. King in Local 1733 in Memphis stood up for those black sanitation workers who went out on strike. Those men changed the trajectory of this country with 4 simple words: I am a man. And as you heard Dr. Smart say, we are now going to evolve that into I am a person. But those 4 words and AFSCME's history, standing with Dr. King, standing up for civil rights, workers' rights, we still today fight for those same issues and rights that they were fighting for then. Dr. King's dream has not been realized. However, AFSCME is on the front lines continuing to fight that fight. And we will make sure, Dr. Smart, that we realize and send the message that I am a person.
That's right. Amen to that. Thank you so much, Lori. So for the rest of our panel, the question is, how does your current work advance the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King and the legacy of the March on Washington from 60 years ago?
Okay.
Eric? Oh, sorry.
Please.
Well, being honored to be a part of this panel, definitely. Reverend Smart and President Wheeler set it up a great deal by just mentioning the march and what we were fighting for. And so UHW is still fighting for the racial and economic justice, right? And like my brother over here mentioned, by fighting for the communities that we serve. So everything that we are fighting for, it's a shame really in 2023 that we are still fighting for those same things, right? And like she said, somebody not mentioning or not understanding the full dream of Martin Luther King, but to still be fighting where we as labor workers are still organizing and still making reference to the national labor relations, right? And now we have to force people's hands to actually abide by those rules that have already been set in place. And so continuing the fight, being on the line, being in solidarity for all labor is how we continue that. But again, fighting for racial and economic justice and fighting for our communities to thrive and to live in the places where we live and serve.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Tasha. Really great. Eric, please.
Yeah, I'll be honest. When I first got invited to be on this panel, I was a little bit intimidated. I was like, I don't belong on a panel related to the March on Washington. I just write silly little TV shows. And then I thought about it. I thought about how the March on Washington, in addition to being a civil rights event, was also, as we know, a march for labor. And the Writers Guild is currently today marked our 120th day of being on strike. And I realized, no, there's a definite connection between the labor movement that I am currently involved in and the one that happened or was going strong, 60 years ago. It's all labor, and there's all dignity in labor. So one of the things that I've learned being a member of the Writers Guild negotiating committee is that sometimes when you're up against these multinational billion-dollar corporations, all they want to do is demonstrate increased profit year after year, quarter after quarter, no matter what the human cost. Somebody has to put their foot down. That's right. And someone said, no, thank you. And so, we realized that we needed to demonstrate our power, and I think we've done so remarkably successfully with the help of labor unions from across Los Angeles, from across the nation. SAG-AFTRA was out there on our picket lines, even between what was going on 60 years ago. Matter of fact, this is the first time in 63 years that both SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild have been on strike at the same time. So
and from that, sorry to interrupt you, but from that, Ronald Reagan was our president of SAG.
Yes.
And we got residuals and a health and pension plan. So I'm expecting very big things out of this current negotiation.
All right, thanks, Eric. Really appreciate that. Thanks everyone. So for those of you who are tuning in, this is the Los Angeles Roundtable. My name is Anton Formby. I'm the president of the Black Caucus within SEIU AFRAM, and I'm here as your moderator this evening with this distinguished panel of labor leaders who are talking to us about the work that they do and how it's connected to the dream and the legacy of the March on Washington from 60 years ago. The current question on the table is, how does your current work advance the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King and the legacy of the March on Washington from 60 years ago? These panelists are kind of engaging in open dialogue, and who would like to go next? Max?
I'll go. This unified district had, and I just want to share with you who we represent there. We represent the people who, without the members who represent the district, wouldn't even wake up. People that drive buses, school buses, people that repair the school buses, that drive trucks, warehouse workers, food service workers, people that clean, teachers assistants, special ed assistants, IT workers, and so on and on and on. Yet, however, even though their work is essential to education, and mostly is being done by Black and brown women here in Los Angeles, they're struggling to get by. They have to sleep in their cars. They're so far away sometimes, that's why they have to do that, or they are housing insecure. 1 in 3 has been or is housing insecure while doing that work. And another thing is, half of them are parents of children that attend the school district. So, and why is it so? It's been decades of neglect. So a few years ago, members, we made the decision that we needed to make systemic change, because incremental change is not going to cut it to start improving the conditions. And we did it because our members are basically, they are educators. They lead with love. And their goal is to have great education for all, including their kids and the kids that they educate as well. So about March of 2022, after the pandemic interrupted our plans, and I'm just going to say it because our members were ready to say enough's enough, and then the pandemic came, and our members joined. Many of the workers represented by the union sitting here at the table in ensuring that society could function throughout the pandemic, that children continued to receive education, and that the public had services that needed. And it was done by essential workers, again, that are represented by a lot of folks sitting here at this table. Our members had enough, and we decided to make a bold demand. And we understood what is our power, what is the power of labor. Dr. King understood it perfectly well when he supported those sanitation workers. He understood the power of labor is literally our unity in labor. We either do our labor together or we withhold that labor to show you how important labor is. Therefore, members made a decision, we need to start showing this unified school district that without us they don't function. It was about respect. But respect is not just defined, treat me right. Just like equality and equity is not defined, be nice to all of us and talk nice to all of us. It's also defined by having a living wage, being compensated adequately for the work you do, as well as being able to have health care and just basic human right benefits, like retirement, etc. So we made a bold decision to organize and show the district that without our work, you will not function. And along that route, something wonderful and magical happened. We gained the solidarity of the teachers of Los Angeles Unified School District. And that was the magic formula. Solidarity with each other as workers, not just in the school district, but what you're seeing right now. We have to support sisters and brothers that are fighting these corporate behemoths such as Hollywood, you're fighting Hollywood, hospital systems such as Kaiser, who's supposed to be non-for-profit, but I don't know if that's really the case, et cetera, right? And so our members organized, and I think the people that are not in LA may not have seen it, but paralyzed the school district for 3 days. We paralyzed the city, and guess what? The parents are not mad. Because not only are our members, a lot of them are parents, and parents understand intrinsically and know the conditions of the schools. I know that our fight was going to lead to clean, safe, supported schools. Absolutely. And more services for special ed students. Yeah. So our members struck, and guess what? They're not doing well economically, yet they still made the sacrifice. Nobody paid them anything, yet they still struck for 3 days, and they won a bold demand. That is not over yet, so our work needs to continue because it's not done. Because I don't know anybody that's going to fight just to get to the poverty line. You fight to get beyond that poverty line.
Right.
Right? So, that's how I think our work brings the legacy. It understands the legacy that Dr. King actually was very clear in understanding. Respect and equality is not just words, it's actually actions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you so much, and thank you, my brothers and sisters. You've heard from folks who represent writers and actors who are currently on strike, public employees, right, striking for better working conditions and economic justice. Excuse me, we're talking about school district employees, right, wanting to have a say in the workplace, right? These are things that are not huge asks. These are things that should be automatic, that shouldn't be without a fight, yet here we are talking about it. And right here in Los Angeles, we're at ground zero. This is Los Angeles, workers of Los Angeles, unions of Los Angeles. And this is a panel of labor leaders talking exactly about the work that they're doing to advance the dream of Martin Luther King and the March on Washington. And the question to the panel, maybe I think we have a couple more folks. Kurt, I see you. How does your current work advance the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King and the March on Washington from 60 years ago? My brother Kurt.
Thank you, and thank you for hosting this. It's hard seeing all of you without picket signs. I almost didn't recognize you because echoing what Max said, I mean, I've never seen anything in my life in terms of the solidarity among unions. I mean, it's just a transformation, I think, of the labor movement, and so much of that, credit goes to Yvonne and her leadership, as well as, her staff. It really has been a remarkable summer, and our members are just blown away by and inspired by just you walking next to us and vice versa. It's really been extraordinary. We are engaged in a fight in our hotels. We have 10,000 workers have gone on strike in 46 hotels. It's the largest strike in the history of hotels in the United States. And it's about, I think it's the same fight or the same challenge all of us are trying to grapple with, and that is, who is going to be able to live in Los Angeles, right? I mean, is Los Angeles going to be only for the wealthy, who are, more and more becoming a larger part of our population, or are those who drive trucks, those who, are nurses and take care of people, those who educate, those who act, those who write, those who cook? Will those folks be able to live in Los Angeles? And so we put on the table, demands that honestly are, extraordinary. We want a $5 an hour raise right away. That would be a 20% increase. We're looking for almost 50% increase in pay in our contract, and needless to say, while the hotels have this money, they are dug in. So we're in it for the long haul, and thank goodness we have the solidarity. One of the places that we draw inspiration from, in very specific ways, is the civil rights movement. It was, as we all know, it's such a gift, and it's more than a gift. It's a miracle that we have him with us and are able to learn from him. But at the time, his strategy, and he was the most brilliant strategist in nonviolence that has ever lived. Perhaps maybe Gandhi's up there as well. Obviously, I should respect that. But his idea around the Nashville sit-ins was to do it in waves and never let the other side know when and where you're going. And so we decided to follow that example. That is the reason why, the principal reason why we're doing strike waves. We don't have the money they have. We know they could outlast us. If we walked out, it never came back until we got what we wanted. So we decided we're going to follow that example. It worked in Nashville. They won. It was one of the, in much harder circumstances than what we're facing in terms of life and limb. We have been going out in waves, and they never know where we're going, when we're going. But that actually came from that idea that James Lawson came up with, and others, but largely James Lawson, Reverend James Lawson, did in Nashville. And so, the civil rights movement is just, and the Sclc's role in it is just, it's something that, we draw inspiration from all the time, not just in that particular tactic. And I think all of us do, and we owe a great deal of gratitude. I mean, the three things that I think about a lot in our fight, and three things that come from the civil rights movement, from the March on Washington, is one, is your cause just? And down the road here, all of our causes are just. Are we committed to the principle of nonviolence? And folks, we are completely committed to nonviolence. We have been attacked at many locations, many strike locations, 3 in particular, where people have been thrown on the ground. And I am so proud of our members and our staff. They didn't raise a fist. They did exactly what they were taught. It came naturally, and honestly, I think it comes from both the Fed and our connection with Reverend Lawson. But it's also that knowing that that's what works, and that's what will eventually prevail in our fight and every other fight is nonviolence. And the last thing I'll say is what I started with, and other people have mentioned, is the solidarity is why we're going to win. The employers have no idea what that word means. We are going to win, not just because we have solidarity on the line and members are together and connected in ways and empowered in ways that they've never felt before, but the solidarity in this room. I mean, writers, actors, hotel workers, Teamsters. Next week, I think on Monday, we're doing something with the Kaiser workers. I mean, it's just like, it's non-stop and it's unstoppable. So, and that solidarity is what eventually, brought many of the victories home in the civil rights movement, and we know that's going to happen for all of us at this table, for all the workers here to fight, to win, to be able to earn enough to live in this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Really appreciate that. And yes, I don't think folks know what solidarity means. We're here in Los Angeles. We're going to show them a thing or two. With the hotel workers, Teamsters, with Labor Day coming up, we have our hospital workers that's engaging in contract negotiations, that we're going to be supporting this Labor Day. And so I just want to thank everyone for joining us here today on behalf of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference of Southern California and the Los Angeles Federation of Labor. We welcome everyone who is tuning in. My name is Anton Farnby. I'm your MC tonight, along with this distinguished panel. And our question on the table, and I think there's only one person left, Victor, is how does your current work advance the legacy of the dream of Martin Luther King and the legacy of the March on Washington from 60 years ago?
Everybody's tactic is different, but the acts that Dr. King did have been, memorable. Waves of attacks, that's a great strategy. Private sector contract, 350,000 members in UPS.
Great.
And it is the highest wage increases they have ever seen. The basics of air conditioning these trucks, you would see our members fainting out there, and all because it saves a penny for corporations not running fuel. But one thing we never shied away in this contract. We stated our intentions, like our General President Sean O'Brien says. We will state our intentions. One big thing, he said it from the beginning, was we will get Dr. King's birthday off as a holiday in the contract. And I'm glad to report, because of the solidarity, Dr. King's birthday. And they fired these workers of color out in Palmdale, California, because these workers stood up and said, enough is enough. We want to get treated with respect. And so that battle continues. And solidarity is the only way to get it done. I appreciate everybody on the panel here. And President Wheeler, thank you for having us again.
Thanks, Victor. And then I'm gonna have Jolie that's gonna round us out and take us home. My apologies for that. To kind of talk about the work that you all are doing and how it advances the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King.
I am thinking about us all not having those picket signs in our arms, and we need to be representing the entire BIPOC community on screen. And I think that I want to take that. I think that we do it as a union, but I feel like I want to take it even a step further and take that on as a challenge to represent everybody on screen and on stage too. I love to get up on a stage and sing a song, but I think that we have a responsibility. So when you turn on a screen, of course you want a living wage. Of course we are fighting to make enough money to have health care, all of those things. But I think I'm a dreamer, so I'm going to take that responsibility.
Thank you so much, Jolie. Thanks everyone for tuning in. You know, we have a distinguished panel of labor leaders here in Los Angeles, right here at Ground Zero, where the fight is happening for workers and for the continued dream of Dr. Martin Luther King. And I thank everyone for answering that question and engaging on how the work of unions is connected to the civil rights movement and the March on Washington. At this moment in time, I would like to what was won, what was the strategy, and I also want to engage Victor, the Teamsters who were in the contract fight, as he had mentioned, for 350 truck drivers across the country. So I would like to engage open dialogue with those two unions to kind of get us set for the current fights that are happening right now with and Max in the earlier part of this year. What were some of the things that you were fighting for, right? You know, what was the fight about, and what was won in those fights? Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so let's go specifically with LAUSD. What that fight was about is trying to bring about some systemic change. So it was about increasing, so just thinking about the very basic demands, given that the wage is so low. It was so low, the wage, that people were making the average $25,000 a year in LA, when the actual minimum, what's considered a poverty wage for a family of four, is $36,900. So it's a basic subsistence fight. We know that people have to go, our members go through hunger, their kids go through hunger, houselessness, you name it, right? And not only that, they're educating children and they're being cheated out of their hours and they're paid by a public entity, which is the school district.
Right.
So our initial fight was to build power. It was really to build power, and through building that power, win significant, clear change. But to achieve that, the strategy in this case was, we represent a whole industry, if you think about it, given the LAUSD has 30,000 classified employees, over 1,000 schools. So it literally dictates what the industry is going to do. So in LAUSD, the minimum wage was $16.75. That kind of sets the minimum wage for the education, all of the other school districts, etc. Now it's going to go to $22.50. It's having a humongous impact. We're seeing it.
Yeah.
So it was a strategy, understanding that we knew because of the members we represented that we could paralyze the district, regardless of who supported us or not. Not that we didn't want it, we built support from parents. We had over 40-some parent organizations sent demands to the district to actually give our members what we were demanding. We created a bold demand that was not just about wages, but included also healthcare for those that didn't have it, expansion of hours of work, specifically for special ed assistants, which actually are direct hours that go to students. More hours for special needs students, which our members are actually doing off the clock in a way. So imagine 7,000 special ed assistants getting an additional hours, 7,000 hours a day more to care for students. That's an example, right? We knew that through the people the district was not being able to hire, so the schools were being impacted. They're dirty, that depending on your neighborhood. If you have a neighborhood that can fundraise, you have enough janitors, otherwise you don't. We also know that there was not enough bus drivers, and as our members are struggling to, there's not enough people don't want to go work at the district because it's difficult work and the pay is low. The district takes advantage and tries to privatize all this work, and if they do manage to privatize it, people doing the work are going to pay even less at the end of the day. So the strategy was, we know we can paralyze this district if we all walk out at the same time. But we also knew that there were core locations that we represented that's all we really needed. One is a warehouse, which is the bloodline of LAUSD. It distributes everything to every school, over 1,000 schools. It's a humongous operation, trucks. Those workers were held strong. The nutritional center, where workers actually, cook. We also understood that the laws, even though it seems California is progressive, even though we have all these, Democrats in power, let's think about it, but our rights to strike are diminished in the public sector. You cannot strike unless you get to some weird process way in the future. We knew that. So we embarked on a popular education process for members to understand their rights and start filing massive ULPs and ULPs and ULPs. At the same time, members understanding how to protect themselves. So that was the strategy, and then came at the end of the day, teachers understood this, and they also understood that we need to act in solidarity. That was like the last straw for the district. They understood now that if we walked out, but the other thing was stealth and surprise. How do you do stealth and surprise with 30,000 workers? First, you're bold about what you're going to do. I'm going to strike you. We're going to strike you. We said this to the district last year. If you don't, our members will strike you if you don't do what they need. In that case, it was a 30% increase, which we got. Healthcare, hours of work, everything I mentioned at the end of the day. And the stealth part came in that they thought we were waiting for the whole legal process to end. When we were ready to walk out in a ULP fashion, as we did. So they had no chance of getting replacements, absolutely no chance of getting replacements. So that was it. At the end of the day, a lot of you lived it. All of your unions supported us, so I just want to appreciate that. And beyond the Fed, and these things don't happen. The other thing that was interesting is 30,000 workers, and you know how unions we work traditionally think about, you would think, right, in a traditional setting, you need what, 1,000 organizers for that? Well, we have 10 organizers. Wow. However, we have thousands of leaders, and we know, and they are organized, they are networked, and they know how to move the field. And you know what? They're not going to forget. They haven't forgotten just because this is over. So I'll stop because I'm going to take the whole time. But those are some of the strategies, some of the tactics, and we can talk more. Communications is the last thing I just want to share. The communications was important to enhance and learn more how to do digital communications and tie it to the true and tried methods of campaigning, which really have to do with the escalation tactics that we did. So how did we use, because we had no reps, few reps, how we used communications to create that environment of we're winning was extremely important.
Nice. That's great. Let's give it up for the numbers. Thanks for sharing that, Max. Really appreciate it. I think we've all kind of participated at some point over those 3 days, so congratulations to the members of SEIU 99. So Victor, can you talk a little bit about the contract fight you all had at 396?
It was a legacy fight. I mean, we started off, it was completely different the way we've ever negotiated this contract. Historically, we've negotiated the national and the supplements and riders. This contract was negotiated the other way around. Hence, it got us the record raises we've ever got us. The last contract was $13 billion. This one here was $30 billion.
And that's over the term of the agreement.
That's over the term of the agreement, correct. So it eliminated two-tier wages, the starting rate in the last contract was $15.50, which was below minimum wage here in Los Angeles. The new starting rate will be $21 and
Nice.
record increases. As I came out of a truck, I was a UPS driver. Never did I once think about we will have air conditioning in these trucks. So we always had the 240 air, 2 open doors over 40 miles per hour.
Also, they have their door opens all the time. Right? Those UPS drivers.
You're right.
No air.
We got Dr. King does day off. We got, adequate time off to spend time with our family, because making money is great, but time with family and community is always even more important. So, but I went back to Washington DC we walked away from the table. The company said no more, there is no more. We said, you better go find some more. So there was rallies staged throughout the country. And the rally in Los Angeles was the day right after our general president and our president Yvonne Wheeler spoke here in Los Angeles, downtown LA. Right after that rally ended, they called and says, we're ready to go back to the table. And we got, the big thing too is knowing your wealth. And obviously we all know how important our members and the labor they do. But knowing your place in that, 6% of UPS or 6% of the GDP is in UPS's system. 2% of the world's GDP is in UPS's system. So we were not going to only stop the country, we were going to stop the world too, if we didn't get what we deserved. And we sure did get it. So, but once again, it was a solidarity. Thanks for the riders. We were out there with our Vice President Lindsay Doherty. She's a fighter. She runs a movie local out here in Hollywood. So, but
Let's give it up for the members. Thanks, Victor, for that. And really appreciate Max and Victor talking to us about their strategy. So I would like to do a quick shift, right, and talk about what's currently happening during this hot summer here in Los Angeles. We have 3 local leaders who are currently engaged in strikes at the moment, right now, as we speak, with the hotel workers, the writers, and the actors. And I want to engage you all in a question around describing for folks who are tuning in, what is this strike about? I think a lot of people have kind of heard in and why are the hotel workers kind of like doing this roaming type of strike. I want to open it up and ask you all, what are the issues that you all are fighting for, and what are you hoping to win out of these strikes?
Oh my gosh. I think that at this moment we're fighting for the soul of what we do. We went to the table against the same people that you did. I'm on the negotiating committee, and we brought what we thought was fair and equitable and something that matched, inflation and finally stood up to corporate greed, like we've all been talking about. These studios have been profiting on our backs as performers, as artists, for far too long, and claiming that they're not making any money, which is absurd. We have spoken about AI. Of course, that is something we need guardrails around. It is not just to be replaced by machines. It is to duplicate performances. It's to take the dignity out of a performer that performs in the background and tile them and use them in perpetuity whenever they want. It is about relocating actors into other places where they have to move their family and they're not quite making enough to pay for a place here in LA. Of course, it's so expensive, and then wherever they've been moved to. It's about base minimums and per diems and things like that haven't moved for 38 years. I have I get frustrated because I feel like our leadership for the past 20 years has gone in and said, we'll take the table scraps, like it's enough. And I think we finally, in myself, take a little bit of credit, but also in our president, Fran Drescher, who was like, this is ridiculous. And, and she was right. And we proved that we weren't going to go into this table, which is like enormous, long, crazy table with human beings sort of sitting across from us, and And they represent these entities that report to shareholders. It's the humanity of it is lost, not just in AI, but in how they don't know what we do. They don't go on a set. They don't write something and bleed on the page and give it over. And so they have to go back and report to these CEOs, and they don't care. I mean, if you looked at the inequity in what those people are making, it's like, you know, what, $60,000 an hour. Some of them, which is but I think that they underestimated our resolve this time around. You know, they did not expect that we were going to go out together, and I would have liked it if the DGA went out in the middle in between us two, but you know, they felt that what the deal that they got was a fair deal. So we put on the table something that was progressive, that was inclusive, that was finally addressing things that for decades have not been. And you know, at 11:47, I held a union sign above my head, and we walked in and put it on the table, and they said, if you just be civilized and not go on strike. And we were like, watch how civilized we're gonna be right now. So, you know, so we've been uncivilized for 47 days, and a couple hundred for you. And we're gonna continue to be disruptors until we get a deal that's fair and just.
That's right. Thank you, Jolie. I really appreciate that. Kurt or Eric, anything you all want to add?
Specific proposals that are unique to the Writers Guild, but like most labor unions, I feel like the majority of the issues that we're fighting for fall under two umbrellas. It's compensation and it's working conditions.
Okay.
You know, and within under those umbrellas, there are a million individual proposals that we don't want to get too in the weeds, but basically, you know, those are the two main categories that drove us to strike. And we went in and dealt with some of those same people. And I think some of us, myself included, were under the impression that we would be dealing with reasonable adult human beings who would respond to reality. And like the actors, they really underestimated our resolve. But in a bigger picture sense, one of the things that we told our membership that we're fighting for is literally the existence of screenwriting as a viable career. Oh. It is becoming unsustainable for people to stay in this business, also to live in this city, as we watch the CEOs of these companies, you know, fly around on private jets and make exorbitant salaries. And they always say, you know, well, the industry has been disrupted, first by COVID, and then, you know, well, streaming, we don't quite know what it is, so we need to make some adjustments, and if you could just settle for a little bit less. And I always think, you know, the one thing that never seems to get disrupted are CEO salaries. And it becomes very difficult to sit and listen to people tell you no when their CEOs are, you know, jetting around the world and basically telling us that we're being unreasonable and unrealistic. And the only upside is every time these representatives from the studios open their mouths, they galvanize our union even more. You know, because the things that they say, which I assume are to placate their shareholders, just, you know, put the fire in the belly of the Writers Guild and also SAG-AFTRA. So if you open up the newspaper or you open up social media and you see people, you know, smiling on the picket line, don't let the smiles fool you. You know, nobody wants to be out there. Yeah. You know, to a person, we would all rather be working. Of course. But that's us lifting each other up. You know, 120 days in so far for the writers, and one of the many things we've said to the companies is, you know, our membership is dictating our fight. You know, we're executing their wishes, and we can't come back to them with some magic beans. So we need to make sure that whatever deal we settle for is worth the sacrifice that a lot of people have made so far.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I think it's important for people to know exactly and really don't understand what it's like. So it's always important to kind of bring the workers' voice into that, to kind of highlight what this fight and this strike is really about. So thanks, Jolie and Eric, for sharing that. So Kurt, can you talk a little bit about the strike that's happening with the hotel workers here in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I mean, our thinking is that you know, tourism, like Hollywood, like logistics, like healthcare and education, are one of the most significant economic engines in the city. It got devastated, like Hollywood did during the pandemic, and when workers went back to work, even though we said do not take advantage of the pandemic and slash jobs and cut labor, do not do it, they couldn't help themselves. And they went ahead and did it. And so if you talk to our members, they're like, I'm doing more work than I was before the pandemic, and I'm getting paid the same thing. And at the same time, housing costs have soared. They're out of control. We all know this. I mean, I bought a house 30 years ago for $260,000. I mean, you couldn't buy a shack for $260,000. But so that idea that people can own their home is gone. The idea that you can actually hold on to your place is leaving as well. And that those two things, like they had the gall, the audacity, the greed, they couldn't help themselves, took advantage of the pandemic. The most concrete example is the elimination of daily room cleaning. If you had bet me $1,000 before the pandemic that they would get rid of daily room cleaning in hotels, I would have said, you're kidding me. That's why people go to hotels. You go there to get your room, walk in, it's clean. But by golly, they did it, and they're sticking with it. And so that is done simply to cut labor. It's not because you're safer from COVID if your room isn't cleaned, or somehow the hotel's going to be safer because people are going to be able to load like they did in Vegas, in 2000, whatever it was, when someone put all kinds of guns and started shooting at people to pay. It's booming right now. All of us here have tried to get a hotel room anywhere. It's like insane, right? Our city is the only city in the history of the world that will have the World Cup and the Olympics back to back. Never happened before. Never. 2026 and 2028. And so this strategy is about leading into 2028. And we've had discussions in this room with other unions, and we all be thinking about how do we have our contracts expire right before the Olympics, all of us, because we could shut down the city. The eyes of the world, not just the nation, are going to be on LA for 2 weeks. My God, could we? Right now the hotels are saying, we'll give you a 6-year deal. Because they're like, we don't want you to wreck the Olympics. You just can't do it. But if we all were there, could you imagine? Could you imagine? Anyway, that's what we're thinking.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. That sounds really, really great. Thanks so much.
Can I add one small thing?
Oh, yes,
because you just made me realize something that whenever I've gone to hotels the last year or two, there's always like a little sign or a placard in the hotel room that says to the guest, you're saving the environment if you don't have daily room cleaning. And for the longest time, I fell for that. I'm like, I'm saving the environment by not having daily room cleaning. I'm going to reuse my towels. And then you begin to line in their pockets, and you begin to realize, like, there's a lot of overlap in the way that a lot of these corporations do business, and how they do like a smoke and mirrors kind of thing. And like nothing is ever really what it seems, but it's all geared towards making them boost their profits.
Ain't that the truth? Amen to that, Eric. Thanks you all for that. And we stand in solidarity with these striking workers here in Los Angeles. For those who are tuning in, this is the Los Angeles Roundtable. This is a panel of distinct labor leaders here, brought to you by the Southern Christian Leadership Conference of Southern California, as well as the Los Angeles Labor Federation. And I want to just lift up our president, Yvonne Wheeler of the LA Fed, and the president and CEO of the Sclc of Southern California, Pastor Smart. We are having an open dialogue around the state of labor in Los Angeles, and these are labor leaders who are currently engaged in the fight. So I just want to kind of pivot a little bit to the other broader workforce that we have with the public employees here with AFSCME and Local 721, as well as the healthcare workers with UHW, SEIU. So I want to engage you three around the current work that's in front of you right now, right? We've talked about contracts, we've talked about strikes, current and in the past. So I want you all to talk a little bit about what you're working on right now, just so the folks who are tuning in have a very good, wide understanding of labor here in Los Angeles. So Natasha, Lori, and Sabor, I would like to engage you all to invite you into the conversation around the work your local is doing.
Okay, so I'll start. So United Healthcare Workers are in one of the biggest fights of their life. We are right now having 5 negotiations. I am a part of the Kaiser division for United Healthcare Workers. And to talk about the disrespect, I love how you put it in the category of compensation and safety and rights. But when we talk about healthcare workers, it's not just the safety of the workers, but in turn the safety of the patients and the communities, right? And so as you know, the pandemic has left healthcare workers in a crisis. We have workers who are doing the jobs of 2 or 3 people at a time, which is not leading to safe practices, right? Like we talked about, I love just being a part of this panel of labor workers and hearing some of the similarities, you know, the things that we are facing, right? To talk about unfair labor practices and things that we have to stand up and talk about regarding safety is incredible that we're all doing it in solidarity and together. But after the pandemic, there has left, make sure that we have the staffing, to make sure we have the safety, to make sure we have the livable wages to live in the places where we work also, right? The other thing is, like we talked about for bargaining, we're part of a larger labor thing also. The coalition of Kaiser Permanentes has over 58,000 of just UHW members, but there are 85,000 coalition labor workers and from different regions.
Is that all within Kaiser?
It is all within Kaiser, but again, Kaiser is throughout different regions. So Washington, Mid-Atlantic states, Colorado, the Rocky areas, and then California. They've even divided California to Northern California and Southern California. So me also being a part of negotiations in the bargaining team, we have literally went in and, like you said, told them what our struggles are. Right? We told them, just like some other people talked about, how we have people who are living houseless, people are literally struggling to either decide to stay in healthcare or stay in labor work or to take care of their families in different ways. We have childcare issues. I mean, you guys have mentioned so many issues that we've had. We were able to go in and talk to Kaiser about those issues. They came back and disrespectfully said, however, in California, you make 28% above a market. Not talking about the, like we said, the rent issues, the housing issues, the houselessness, how people are literally couch surfing to even decide whether they can come to work or not come to work, right? But to say that we make 28%, and what they did was try to divide the whole coalition, to say that Washington and Colorado needed something different, but California didn't need to talk about wages because they already pay us above a market. And so disrespectful. In our last bargaining session, Kaiser did not show up to the bargaining table with labor. They came to the hotel and had separate meetings. And it was very disrespectful. As a matter of fact, we all decided, because what we did was we had lunch groups that were together where management was supposed to be with labor. So labor got into the lunch group before them and decided, you know what? If you can't meet with us, you can't eat with us. You know? And so it's these actions, right? And it's these solidarity moments where we show them that it's the power of the people that is moving us towards what we want, what we deserve. Right? And so our fight right now is, like I said, one of the biggest in healthcare, and we are just, again, fighting for fair staffing so that we can be safe and so that we can do what caregivers do. We care about making sure that people have what they need regarding their health. And because we have to turn our attention to other places, right, then we cannot give the patients what they need as caregivers and things like that. And so I also am grateful that you had already mentioned the Labor Day action, because we are now organizing, and before I go to the Labor Day action, we're organizing to actually have a strike vote. Starting yesterday, and for 2 weeks, we are organizing. I like what somebody else said about how when they were in the fight, they organized, and it was just 10 leaders amongst the 1,000 members that we have. So we have put together a structure where we have strike captains, leaders, and then supporters, and trying to make sure that we communicate to all of our members. And it's amazing to see now the response of people who didn't necessarily feel connected to the union, who are now on board. Nice. And so like we said, from now, starting on Monday, for 2 weeks, we are asking our members, do you want to strike? You know? And so we are ready at the end of our contract, which ends on September 30th, to present Kaiser a 10-day notice that we will strike. and we will stand up for what we believe we deserve. Amongst that, we have, talked to several other people. We have initiated SB 525 school, right, very close to the Los Angeles Medical Center for Kaiser. And we are asking people to come out and support in solidarity, as we have with all the AM, and we are asking everybody to come a little bit early so that we can organize and make sure that we are all in solidarity and we know what we're doing. We are marching to Kaiser to let them know that we are not playing, and that we, as labor, want to be heard, and that we will make some noise on Labor Day.
Tasha, appreciate it. So Samoa and Lori, who both asked me, District Council 36 at SEIU 721, both kind of represent public employees. So I want to kind of bring their voices in the room to kind of talk about what's the work that you all are engaging in at your locals as well.
Okay, so we have a fight on our hands. Just like many of folks have said, we are dealing with the shortage of staffing. The city of Los Angeles is a snail when it comes to hiring. We need to continue these services, vital services, animal services, sanitation services. And when I talk about sanitation, that's to the heart. My brother here represents sanitation, and we've been talking about it. We represent all of the sanitation trash truck drivers. We also represent 6,700 miles of pipeline, the largest municipal wastewater system in the nation. 4 treatment plants, and I can go on about sanitation. But we also represent the Port of Los Angeles, the airport. These are the ports that goods come in, of course, and all the visitors that they come in. And we have something that we created, and it's called Fix LA Alliance. And it's along with labor, faith-based, and community organizations. We also have the Coalition of LA City Unions. That's part of that. And that's a bunch of unions that represent the employees in the city of Los Angeles. And we're all fighting for the same things. Respect. That's one of the things. When we're at the bargaining table, I mean, for the city management side to say we have no authority to bargain, well, why waste time? And that's why some months ago, SEIU Local 721 membership said we're fed up and we want to go on strike. And we had a 98% vote, and we took a one-day unfair labor practice strike. With that, we are back to the table, thanks to that strike and our mayor of the city of Los Angeles stepping up to the plate, making sure that the city of Los Angeles have a strike. But we still have a fight on our hands. We're not finished. And we're going to continue. Yeah, we're not finished. We're currently bargaining right now. But we're going to make sure that we bargain with the community. We're going to make sure that everyone has a say-so in this, because it's not just about us as city employees. It's about the folks we serve. Los Angeles is suffering. All you have to do is go outside and you see unhoused. And that's something that is so very important to us as union members, because some of our members are unhoused, unfortunately. So we're asking for a living wage for all Los Angeles folks, not just union members. And so we want to continue to fight. I call it the Green Machine. We work together, like I see Lori everywhere. But ASME, SEIU, Teamsters, and I can go on. It's a bunch of labor organizations along with faith-based groups, Sclc-Sc, community organizations, include, of course, the Fed, LA County Federation of Labor, 700,000 strong, got to represent. We're all in this together. And other unions that aren't even City of Los Angeles unions are involved in this. My brother here with USWW and other folks are involved in this, and we're doing this, like I said, For respect, we're doing this for our communities that we serve and the unhoused.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Appreciate you. Regardless of what type of worker, right? And that is why we are here tonight to engage in that conversation for this roundtable brought to you by the LA Fed and the Sclc of Southern California. So I want to bring in my sister, Lori, into this conversation also to kind of talk about what are some of the things that are happening over at ASME District Council 36 that you would like to share with the folks who are tuning in on your campaigns.
Well, as you heard from my brother Simboa, we're dealing with some of the same issues. We represent the great workers of the city of Los Angeles, along with the librarians, along with the executive secretaries, along with Rec and Park. We have 6 locals, city locals, under our umbrella. And we are fighting, these workers did the heavy lift during COVID. These workers kept this city running during COVID. There was a huge early retirement program for the common good, as we say, which includes the houseless, which includes equity issues, which includes dealing with anti-blackness in the workplace, which includes a whole range of issues that most people look at as societal issues. Those aren't labor issues, but they are. Because like my brother said, we have city workers who can't afford to live here and are houseless. And we have to approach bargaining, and we're gonna have to really, really leverage our powers in this round to get the money that the workers deserve for keeping this city running during a global pandemic. We need the start rates for the city of Los Angeles have not been changed since the 1980s. This has to be addressed in this round, and they have to be moved up. The workers do great work in this city. They're vital to this city. If that trash person doesn't come pick up your trash, your neighborhood is gonna start smelling kind of bad. You know, my librarians decide they don't wanna go to work. That's vital city services that are cut. My workers decide we're not opening City Hall. That's gonna be a problem. So we are in a hell of a fight. And we are going to need the support and the solidarity, and we are going
to you by the Southern Christian Leadership Conference of Southern California and the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor. So we're coming to a close. I would like to give the opportunity for each panelist to kind of talk about any parting words, any remarks, any call to action that you all may have that folks who are tuning in that can help out in the work that you all have been describing. So we started this panel to my left, so I would like to kind of go to my right and yield the floor to Jolie.
Oh, so many people have said such incredible things tonight. What I was thinking is, if we've all said, we're gonna fight, it just feels so like we need more kindness as well. So I would ask you, knowing that my people that I represent are out there on the street across this country in front of, here in LA, 10 studios, and chanting for their lives and shuffling down the streets and sweating, and I'm right there with them, and they're talking about what they need and what they care about, and that we feel the love of all of you out there when you come and you beat the horn and you scream and you're like, yeah, we're in it with you, that you continue to, in a kind way and in a supportive way, know what we're about and why we're out there, and that you do get weary this long a time. You guys
Yeah.
especially have been there longer than us, but it's hard to I was gonna say something fresh. It's hard to muster the strength when and it's hot. Like I kept saying a hot guild summer, but that was my thing. But union or any of you in this fight, that's all I would say.
Okay, so for anyone who is interested, the Writers Guild doesn't have any specific actions coming up on the horizon that I can recall off the top of my head. But for anyone who wants to be a part of what we're doing, the easiest way is to come out and join a picket line. You don't have 2023.org. On that homepage, there's a drop-down tab that says Take Action. And if you go there, it gives you a bunch of recommendations for things the average person who may not even be a part of the entertainment industry can do. There's social media, a campaign that's going on. There's a way to just sort of spread the word, or talking points you can give to your friends and relatives. And there's also a breakdown of what I just want to, before we get out of here, just thank everyone at this table and basically every union that has come out and supported us literally since day one of our strike. We've had Teamsters, we've had actors, we've had IATSE members, musicians. Just today, I think there were like 100 or so nurses who joined our picket line at the offices of Netflix. It's not just about. I'm sorry?
LIUNA?
Yes, LIUNA, thank you. At Unite Here, I've been to a couple of their pickets, so there's been an unprecedented amount of cross-union support that I don't think any of the companies or government agencies that we're up against could have possibly anticipated. One of my fellow negotiating committee members said, just speaking about the Hollywood studios, he said some weeks ago, he said they thought they were fighting one of us. They didn't think they were fighting all of us. And I think that the support that we've gotten and the support that we've given has really shown that we're going to lift each other up until everybody gets the fair deal and the respect that they demand and deserve.
That's right.
And so along those lines, I would say definitely my advice to you is to stay tuned and stay connected. Again, we want to respect the Sclc and Reverend Smart for having us here. Also want to respect President Wheeler. I'm a part of the newsletter that President Wheeler puts out all the time. And she has detailed information about all of our struggle and all of our fights. And just like Eric said, follow us on social media. It is a hot union summer. You can find it with hashtag Hot Union Summer. You can also find for myself with our union group, hashtag SEIU, UHW. Also, for UHW, we have the United for All campaign, because again, this is not just about one fight. And so hashtag United, the number 4, AL. The media is not going to tell you what we see. The media is not going to tell you what the patients see. We also want to draw your attention back to Labor Day, September 4th, Monday, this Monday. We will be in Los Angeles, in Oakland, and in San Diego, standing up for what we deserve. Stay tuned.
Well, AFSCME does not have anything on the calendar at the moment, but what you can do is reach out to your local council person and let them know to pay the workers what they deserve and pay the workers enough money that they can live in the city that they work in.
So we will be there Monday.
That's right.
721 is in the same fight with Kaiser. We may not be employed by Kaiser, but Kaiser wanted to raise their rates, and so we are in the same fight. We're in solidarity, so we'll be there Monday. We're asking people to step up and be there Monday, Labor Day, because it's a hot labor summer.
That's right.
And we are going to continue the Fix LA Alliance. We're going to continue to bargain for a common good with the community to make sure that the community have a voice when it comes to bargaining. So thank you all, and thank you everyone at this table that has supported SEIU Local 721. Everyone has actually stepped up. That strike, that was There has not been a strike in the city of Los Angeles for 43 years. And we were out there, and every last local, including the Fed, was out there with us. So we want to say thank you, and we want to continue to fight for social and economic justice.
We don't have specific upcoming actions except solidarity to all that are at this table and beyond. Continue to support hotel workers that are striking, actors, writers, city workers, and whoever. Continue to organize for our fight. However, just to take a moment, I know that this is being viewed throughout the country. It is important where we have the right to strike and to have collective bargaining, to exercise it to the utmost, or it will be lost.
That's right.
We must continue to do that. And where there is no right to strike, we need to create the way to change the rules. And that is essential at the end of the day as society. We are living here in California in the richest state in the country, 5th largest economy in the world, yet we have a problem with houselessness. How is that possible? Well, we actually have an assembly and a senate in the state that's a super democratic majority, including a governor. So nothing is given, everything is taken. We need to continue. So I exhort all of you everywhere throughout the country, you need to organize. You need to organize in your work site. At the end of the day, Dr. King understood the right to strike is the ultimate right, it's the ultimate freedom. It is your freedom to actually not be forced to do that work in the conditions that we are being forced to. And he understood that we need to continue to organize until all of us create crisis. And I'm not going to use the word socialize the economy because I scare people. However, I'm going to use the word humanize the economy. Because the economy is no longer working for human beings. It is working for corporations, and it is continuing to work to wage war with other countries throughout. And start caring about people, investing in education, investing in healthcare, ensuring that everybody has access to excellent quality healthcare, that everybody has access to retirement so they can live the last years of their life in dignity. That is what I exhort all of us to keep doing. Thank you.
Well, if the Teamsters, if there's a fight, the Teamsters are in it. So I just want to thank everybody here at the table, Yvonne, Reverend Smart. Thank you guys for standing next to us. We are in every single one of your fight. You'll see the brown truck not cross that picket line.
That's right.
And I've been getting reports now that UPS drivers are so engaged and so ready to go. Now they stop during their lunch or breaks and walk a picket line. So that's actually pretty cool. We're in the form of social media, and we still have a big fight with Amazon. These workers have been on strike for some time now. So the fight continues, and solidarity to all. Thank you.
So I think we now have the hot Labor Day weekend itinerary. We're going to have a march at 7 a.m. in downtown Los Angeles. We're gathering at the Intercontinental Hotel. We have kept our strike secret, so I'm giving out a little bit more information than we normally do, but we will be there Friday morning at 7 a.m. and we're going to march through downtown. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a political science professor convention in town that decided to come rather than heeding our advice to leave. So that's going to be a great action. But then I would recommend that you go to a SAG-AFTRA and Writers Guild picket line right after that, right? You guys are going to be up and running?
We sure will.
And then we'll be out on strike over the weekend in case you're needing a little more picket lines. And of course, we should end it with the action at Kaiser because our members love Kaiser. I love Kaiser. I've had kids, children born there. But they keep on asking us for 20% increases on our fund. So I would give the 20% if I knew they were do this weekend. So thank you all so much for being here and the solidarity that you've given and shown. Thank you, Yvonne, and thank you, Professor.
Okay, so thank you to all of the panelists for not only being here today, but thank you for your work. Thank you for your leadership, and particularly thank you for your membership. The folks who are taking on this fight, whether it's an organizing campaign, a contract fight, or a strike. I want to show appreciation for everything that you all do and lift up the work of workers here in Los Angeles. Once again, to take us out, This is the Los Angeles and the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor, brought to you by President Yvonne Wheeler. My name is Anton Farby, here as your moderator, and very proud to have been a part of this conversation. So in the tradition of labor, we always go out with a solidarity clap, and we're going to do so tonight. Thank you, everyone.
Right. Thank you, Anton, for a marvelous job.
So can I make one announcement?
Are we allowed to leave, Pastor Smart?
Huh?
Are we allowed to leave?
Yeah.